London's most haunted. Ooh, this is 50 Berkeley Square. Hello and welcome back. My name is Heather. If you don't know who I am a crime writer. I talk about true crime, paranormal things, books and writing. If you like that kind of content, stick around. I have my very cheap plastic goblet full of wine, my candles, my boys. We're time to talk about some hosty ghosty. Hosty ghosting. Let's go. Hosty ghosting. 50 Berkeley Square is known for being the most haunted house in London. A man named Charles Harper wrote a book about the subject, and he said, let me consult my notes, he said, the haunted house was long one of those things that no country cousin came up from the provinces to London on a sightseeing bent ever willingly missed. Although he does begin his article saying that the house is no longer haunted, so don't panic, nor is it empty, people live there now. Charming. There have been a few claims that the house was never truly haunted in the first place, but it adds to some interesting folklore tales that I shall impart to you as knowledger and knowledgee. Together we shall learn about the ghosts of 50 Berkeley Square. I've already learned about it, but you're going to learn about it now. Despite claims that the place is no longer haunted, and despite the fact that people now live there, people still go and visit 50 Berkeley Square as a kind of haunted paranormal pilgrimage. I might go one day, the next time I'm in London. Not in, because I don't want to annoy whoever lives there in the first place, but I might stand outside and go, ooh, that's weird. It was once the home of George Canning, a former Prime Minister, until his death in 1827. He was a Tory, so no wonder there are spooky, horrible things in his home. There were no Labour Prime Ministers until they said so on Downton Abbey that one time. I can't remember the exact date, but it was Tories up until then. So we know for a fact that they were dicks. It was then taken up by a Miss Curzon, who stayed there until her death when she was around 90 years old. It was then taken on by a Mr. Thomas Myers, not Michael Myers, and it was at his tenancy where the hauntings were said to have begun. Ooh. So the story goes that Thomas Myers was said to be married, so he took on this house and he decorated it in a lovely, beautiful way so that his new wife would be hella happy with what was going on. But he was jilted before he was due to get married. Big sad. So he became like a little hermit. He wouldn't leave the house. He only stayed in the attic, and he would travel about the house by candlelight and only at night time. In 1873, the council sued him for not paying his rates, but he didn't show up to the court date. They managed to let him off because he lived in the haunted house. So he didn't have to pay his rent because he lived in the haunted house. Now, if that is a trick we can now pull off, we can overthrow the system. Maybe I can claim that the demon who follows me around and steals my forks is the reason that I cannot pay rent. Sorry landlord, I cannot pay rent. There's something following me around stealing my forks. I live in the haunted house. No to you and your rent. Be gone. There's a story of an old man and his two daughters moving into the house. The fiancé of the eldest daughter, a Captain Kirkland, was invited to stay around. Now the maid preparing Captain Kirkland's room went upstairs and began screaming and flailing. Everyone ran up to see what on earth was going on, and she was screaming, don't let it get me, don't let it get me. She was hospitalized and died later that night. Captain Kirkland wasn't thrown off by the events that had happened in his bedroom not 24 hours before, and he said he was going to sleep in that room. And everybody, don't panic, everything's fine, I'm a big burly man. Look at where your toxic masculinity gets you. Let me tell you where it gets you. Gets you dead. Listen to this. He went into the room, and whatever had killed the maid then came after him. They heard screaming and thumpings from his room, and then a gunshot. They ran upstairs and found him dead on the floor of his own fatal shooting. Another skeptic went to stay in the house and said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to have a look at what's going on. So he went into the house and he stayed in the so-called most haunted room in the house. He said to the people staying with him that he was going to ring a bell if anything was to go on. He would ding-a-ling once if there was just a mild fright but nothing to worry about, and he would ding-a-ling twice if they were to come in and intervene. They heard nothing for a while, until a little ding-a-ling, you hear the one ding-a-ling. So they ignored it like they were told, until later, about 5 seconds, 10 seconds later, they heard all the ding-a-lingings in the world, lots of thumping and lots of screaming. They ran in to find him in massive convulsions. He was then hospitalised, where he later died. 2 sailors broke in one night, needing a safe space to stay. They slept in the attic room because of the heat. The heat would rise throughout the house, so the attic room would be the warmest. So they went up there and then began hearing noises in the middle of the night. They went to investigate what these noises were and found a shapeless figure moving towards them. One ran straight past the figure, outside screaming, where he ran into a policeman. The other one ran back up into the attic and couldn't be found. The one who ran outside went to the back of the house with the policeman and found his friend impaled on the railings below. They had been so terrified that he launched himself out of the window to get away from whatever was in the house. They said this figure was just completely shapeless with a massive gaping mouth, like a portal to hell coming to gobble them up. There are more sightings of spirits in this house. One is the entity with the gaping mouth. Another is Mr. Myers, not Michael Myers, trapped in his own house for all eternity, not going after Jamie Lynn Spears. That's not a name, is it? It's Jamie Lee Curtis. Idiot. So he's not going after Jamie Lynn Spears either, because that's a completely different woman. There's another spirit of a woman who jumped out of the attic window after being abused by her uncle. Another tells of a young man being trapped in the attic and fed by a hole through the door until he died. A rarer story tells the tale of a young girl who was abused by a sadistic servant and was killed upstairs in the attic. In 2001, a cleaner for the house said this brown mist came around her and engulfed her while she was cleaning the house. Nothing happened to her, but she felt threatened and scared. So what do you think happened in the 50 Berkeley Square home? I think these sound like urban legends to me. I think because it's not very well documented, it sounds a little bit urban legendy, but I still wouldn't want to go in. I wouldn't want to go in. Not for me, not doing it. I'd like to stand outside and point a camera at it and go, ooh, that feels a bit weird. And just sort of get a feel for the energy around the house to see if there's anything giving off bad vibes. But at the same time, would I be projecting those bad vibes onto the place because I've been told it's the most haunted place in London? I don't know. It could be all sorts. Who knows? You tell me, what do you think about 50 Berkeley Square? Have you been? Have you heard of it before? What other haunted places are there that you want to talk about? I love haunted things. I love the paranormal. I love crime. Tell me about some things. Tell me about books. Tell me about stuff you write. Have a conversation with me. I'll chat about anything. Leave out in the comments. I don't really care if it's not relevant to the video. Let's have a chat. But I would like to know what you think about 50 Berkeley Square, because I think it's an urban legend. There are some cases of, when I research paranormal things, of me being, yes, I do believe this is a thing. But this one feels a little bit too much like a story to me to be anything other than. So I'm going with urban legend on this one. I give it the big stamp of urban legend. See if I can do that in editing. If I can't, then you'll just have a hand gesture. I'm learning new editing software at the moment, so we'll see if I can make it fancy. I've already figured out how to make a title card, you know, the Supernatural Saturday with the ooh. So we'll see if I can do a boom boom. Anyway, that's all I've got to say because my camera battery's about to die. Bloody hell, I've filmed so much today. Crikey Moses, who am I? Stick around, subscribe if you like true crime, if you like supernatural, if you like books and writing. Drop yourself down below because I have many things to say. I have loads of things to say. I never stop talking and I'm a bit of a narcissist. So let's go.